gods. Peace, peace. Oh, the gods. All right, thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Peace, Almighty. Peace, peace. I hadn't been on Facebook Live in so long, you know, to speak to the gods, you know. I haven't been in so long, man. But there was something that I really thought about addressing, right? And it's the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad into the concerns of prayer. And in 2025, almost 2026, you still have the argument of those who are from the messenger teachings stating that he did not teach Salaat, as if Salaat is an old world activity, which is just a lack of study, in ignoring the divine input of such things, right? We do dua in the Nation of Islam, right? Which is standing erect as a soldier, you know, being erect, standing in front of their captain, right? And we stand in a square. Dua is also practiced in the so-called old world of Islam. So it's kind of oxymoronic to make the argument that Salaat, peace God, Salaat is of the old world of Islam, but yet doing dua, standing erect as a soldier before his captain, is somehow a new form, is something like of the new world of Islam. That's not how it works. The reason why that we stand on our square is because our messenger was at one time a master mason. And the square is known throughout the Masonic craft and is representation of standing upright or erect of a certain type of character of righteousness until you develop into such a state and then you become the square yourself, right? So it is not that it's either or. We have always had, in some form or fashion, a manner for us to connect back with the divine source of ourselves. Salat is not new. Dua is not new. None of these systems, meditation or anything, nothing about them are new. But what we must understand is what separates us from the orthodox form of Islam is not doing salat or doing dua or not doing such. What separates us is our identity, the knowledge that we have ascertained, and our understanding. Indeed. Absolutely, God. 1000% about the prostration mark. Yes, sir. It is our understanding of it and how we approach it. We don't approach Salat looking at a mystery God. That's not how we approach Salat. That's how others may approach Salat. But that's not how we approach Salat. We approach Salat from the state of Ihsan. We see Allah. And we move into Salat in order to see Allah more clearly, which is the divine nature of our own being, right? That's what it's formed for. The connection. Every form of Salat that in position that we take can be seen in yoga 1000% without change. It's 1000% there. The movements that we go through during Salat is an imitation of the movements of the sun. 1000%. This is not something made up. This is common sense when we study the science of why it came into being and its purpose in its activity, right? That's 1000%. But what happens is that we reach a degree, 1000%, God. And that prayer book, and we called up there to the Congressional Library to check to see when the original copyright came, and it was in 1957. Inside of the book Muslim Daily Prayers, the messenger clearly states that he pretty much said that, you know, this is what I've been promising you for some time. And then he told us that we will learn them in the future in the Arabic language. Now, people in their antithesis, and I must be real about this, I don't know if it's more of their dislike of the Orthodox or more of their dislike of Brother Minister Farrakhan implementing it within the ranks and the files, right? Because they become so anti until it become illogical. Instead of looking at the developmental stages of where we was going and what we come from, it has always been implemented. Individuals was doing Salaat during the messenger time. They was learning it in the MUI, along with learning Arabic. All of this was being done already. It just wasn't mandated because he had other stages to take the believers through. You see what I'm saying? So when those type of things are understood, that's not really an argument. And how can there be an argument about any form of way of connecting with the divine or the original essence or nature of self? How is that even an argument? It doesn't make any sense. You see what I'm saying? But there's a difference of the purpose of why we enter it and why they enter it. In their hadith, it states, pray as if you see Allah. But if you don't see him, he sees you. What does that actually imply? If Allah is beyond the imagination of man, and Allah is beyond man, how can he pray as if he sees something that he has absolutely no make or model of in order to perceive it in his imagination? Unless you are making reference to something that is material. Peace, God. Peace, peace, Allah, peace. That is have a make and model for which you can use as a symbol to concentrate upon, right? Because you can't imagine a no thing. You can only imagine a something. This is just how life is, right? But that's an argument for a different time period. But when we look at the reality of prayer and we look at the science of self, they are a make and model of each other. Because we know that prayer is thought. We enter heaven, we enter hell with just a thought. In just one thought, we enter hell, one thought, we enter heaven. It's all based upon our perception, and it's based upon our refinement of our hearts and refinement of our minds. And that's what prayer is for. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that prayer to a Muslim is like gasoline to a car. It keeps us going. So prayer acts as the rain that comes to wash away the filth and the debris. It helps to purify us. In science, it will become heart and mind cohesiveness. We will call that in the Islamic sciences as khushu. When they reach a state of deep concentration, when the mind and the heart is one in the act itself. That's a very interesting thing, right? So, as the messenger pointed out, in the book of the Supreme Wisdom, in which he talked about the prostration mark and how that's the mark of the righteous. And in the Orthodox world, that's what they take the mark of God inside of the forehead, inside the book of Revelations. But I would take that a little bit further. It has nothing to do with a physical prostration mark on the forehead, because when sujood is done correctly, there is no prostration mark on the forehead when it's done correctly, because the face becomes parallel with the ground. So therefore the nose touches just as much as any point on the forehead. And there's a science behind that. Because when you finally reach the state of khushu and you really begin to have the heart and mind cohesiveness, during the act of sujood, when your entire being is one with it, you begin to feel an itching. Peace, God. You begin to feel an itching right here in your eyes, right here. But that comes from the state of beginning to ignore the rakats. The rakats become a guide to align you. But then you should reach a state where you no longer following rakats. Because if you following rakats, that means that your concentration in a form and that thought in a form is then concentrated on something other than the act of what you're doing. Because you're counting. So therefore, the full state of your being cannot be into the act itself of unifying with the divine. That can't be, because you're counting. But when you forget that and you throw that out the window and then you just continuously go with inside of the act, what you will start to realize is that you begin to disappear. That individual self begins to be wiped away. And all that of your being is being isolated into one direction. And when that begins to occur, transformative activities begin to occur within inside of you. That's where the true alchemical process begins to take place. Other than that, you just enter in prayer like you in the East or something. That's not true prayer. That's just acts of, I'm praying to God. And I do this because I want to enter jhana. You don't pull to pray because you want to get a reward for praying. That can't be of the pureness of your being. That's like making a deal. You enter the act of Salaat or prayer or meditation in order to unify yourself back with the divine of your nature, or back with that original man or original essence of being. That's why you engage in it. It's no other reason. Teo is saying, do you remember your face before you were born? That is without identity. It is when you are annihilated, when true fana has been reached and there is no longer an individual ego. When all that exists is Allah and nothing more. You see what I'm saying? So that's the true purpose of it. That's the true purpose of it. There could be no argument against something that is to unify you with the divine of you. And therefore, with all things. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that the name Allah is a good name. He said it covers everything. It is the all in all. He said Allah has colored everything with his coloring. That's everything. That means everything. His nature is everything. With at the root and essence of everything, it is Allah. That means the individual aspect that we call a personality is not the reality of being. It's not the reality of you and I. It is a form that we brought into existence in order to express ourselves on a higher level and dimension of being. This is the form that we utilize in order to call into being our will and to be able to connect more closely and become exalted within Allah. There's nothing else that can. The central nervous system ain't designed as well as ours in order to accomplish such a feat. It took trillions of years in order for this to be. In order for the intelligence that now exists as you or now exists as I to call forth the material out of necessity to be called the original man in this format, because the original man has always existed in one form or another. Because the original man, though having a microcosmic aspect as a physical black man, black woman, and all of that, that's understood. But before there was a form of this, you and I still was. You can search us back to the beginning of time, and we were still there in the darkness as it, unspecified. We were there because if Allah is the only reality and there is nothing else but Allah, then who was in the darkness with Allah but Allah? From which did he take the material to formulate you and I, but from himself? You see what I'm saying? That's why the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that God created himself on this very earth that we are on right now, but that it was an atom itself. It is from the atom that Allah used as this unit in order to bring forth everything else in existence. This is his divine will. You understand? This is it. And then from here, we reach even greater feats and stages of perfection. Because nothing else can imagine within their mind that and cause matter to move in accordance to its will. And in living the matter and archetype that it creates out of its mind with its emotion and therefore cause and bring it into existence. Nothing else can do it but man and woman. Nothing else can do it, though. Thus, when they ask the question, has there ever been a time that man did not exist? Absolutely not. We have always existed. There's never been a time that we did not exist. You take your form, you separate your form. You're nothing more than atoms. Molecules. Atoms. Break them atoms down, you're nothing more than particles. Break those particles down, you're nothing more than waves of energy. That's it. That by will manifests itself in a form. The trickery of the brain then gives a form to that and identifies it in order for it to understand itself. But the problem is we take these forms and they become cages because we identify these forms as actually us. When in reality, they are such a vehicle that we called into being to manifest our purpose as God. That's it. And when this form is no longer needed, we shall still exist. But that's a different subject. That's a different subject right there. But we will still exist. And that for which we identify with, when that ego comes into being, that ego would define and bring back into existence itself. And we will continue forward. Because man is indeed absolutely God. And there's no mystery but the man that don't know himself. The man and woman who don't know themselves are the only mystery gods that exist. Other than that, there's nothing else. That is what we are dealing with today. The reality of ourselves. All of this that we see, the hell and all of that, is all made to force you and I to go inward to look at the reality of self. This is why the messenger said we are living in the day of the manifestation of defects. Peace, God. Peace, sis. Wa alaikum salam, ma'am. The manifestation of defects. That's what we living in. But I want you to understand that because there are defects don't mean you're not perfect. You are definitely perfect. There are just different stages of perfection. Don't get trapped in spookism. That is not what we inherited. We inherited the supreme wisdom. And with that supreme wisdom, we can go into stages after stage into perfection of being to see Allah as clearly as we see the moonlight at night. You see what I'm saying? Because we're going into deeper stages of self. We just have to clear that rusty spiritual part of our brains, as the messenger stated. We just have to clean it up. And that takes time. Because we are addicted to the ego. We are addicted to the personality. We're addicted to that dunya. And until we look deeper at ourselves and begin to cut the ties of that for which contains us or maintains us in the dunya, we will continuously be grafted out of our original nature, out of our original self. See, Yakub's gravitation process, it never ended. The gravitation process ain't happened just 6,600 years ago. No, we being grafted every single day. You don't see Yakub's gigantic manufacturing plant that's going on. You don't see this world. You don't see our people. You don't see what's on TV and all throughout social media. All of that is the manufacturing plant. You don't see them nurses and doctors and that cremator sitting there. You don't see what's going on today. It's just coming in the form of, it's just coming in different forms and in different manners, but the rules are still right there. It's still right there. But till you understand what you really have in the story of Yakub, you can't see it. Excuse me. You can't see it. Because you're looking at the personality of a Yakub. Nah. You escape the plot by applying that for which you have come to know. That's how you escape the plot. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us, and I wanted to say his words correctly. Peace, Black God. Peace, God. Our righteousness is our defense and our protection today. And in that is a science. It's a beautiful science that will protect us. Because the messenger has given us an invincible truth. It's invincible if we utilize it. Peace, God. If we utilize it, it is invincible. And the key and the core to that invincibility is our application and practice of the restrictive law of his laws of Islam. That is it. We are given laws, the restrictive laws of Islam, the 24 principles of Islam, the 17 ways to Islamic culture, the 3 basic laws of Islam, the 21 Muslim rules of conduct. We got it. We have it. When you violate those laws, boy. So the predominant amount of the laws that we have is all based upon purification. Look at that. Man. Each law is designed to teach discipline in order to purify our thoughts, purify our hearts, right? That's what they are for. That's a lot of laws. But they are all rooted in the restrictive laws, the 26 points. All of them. It's good to say every thought is a prayer. That is true. But how many of us have pure thoughts? How many of us are prepared to take that mantle for real? Are you free? Or are you still a slave? Now you'll say from the root of your mind, I'm free. Look at your life. Think of your mind. Think of your thinking. Think of your activity. And you'll see you still a slave. I'm still a slave. Knowledge gives you the ability to reason and have discernment. But knowledge alone, without activity in carrying it into practice, can't save you. That's the reality of it. So I just wanted to get on here and build with the gods a little bit, man. I'm going to get on here a little bit more, right? Because I like to deal with the science of things. But I just wanted to address the understanding of prayer, man. There's nothing spooky about it. Your mentality is spooky. If Salaat is spooky, it's because your mentality is spooky. If prayer is spooky, it's your mentality that is spooky. In everything we do, we are the ones perceiving it and acting it out. If we are acting it out from a spooky perspective, then the activity is spooky. If we are acting it out, understanding why we doing it, the purpose of why we doing it, and then utilizing the tool to ascertain a certain stage of development, then that's not spooky. No more than if you went and took a shower. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Then that's not spooky. But we living in the time of the gods. And they can say, well, you know, but we are living in the time of the gods. But I think that we have to understand, and that's the whole push of what Brother Minister Farrakhan had pushed his entire tenure amongst us, is an aspect of the messenger teachings that are very clear. Yes, sir. That are very clear in the necessity to become pure. We are taught in the 21 Muslim rules of conduct. Only by true repentance and reform can one escape the consequences of their errors. Do you know what it means to repent? True repentance is reformed. They coincide with each other. But going to do Salaat and following the rakats, that's all fine and good. You wake up in the morning, if you have to go to work, you getting up, what's on your mind? You got to be to work at a certain time. So you having the ability to eat before you get to work, what you have to do that day is in your mind while you are doing Fajr. Right? Okay. So that's your whole entire being ain't in the act then. You're worshiping something other than Allah at that minute. Right? When you go in the noon prayer and that come, that's usually while you're at work, right? So while you at work, you're doing the noon prayer, what you thinking about? You got lunch if you didn't eat it yet. And you have to think of what you have to complete at work. If you tired, you can't wait to get off. These are the thoughts that roams in the mind while you are committing Salaat. So do you think that the act of what you doing is all of a sudden the blessing? Do you think because you bow down 20,000 times, that's the blessing? Just because you did it? That's not it. And that's a misunderstanding of things. That's spooky and that's religious. So then when you go to the early evening prayers, what are you thinking about? You're thinking about getting off of work, or what you're going to have to do when you get off of work. That's in your mind at that minute. That full entire being is not there. Allah salam, sir. That full entire being is not there. The only time that you might be fully in tune is at nighttime. So you have to begin to escape. And the only way you can escape is, yeah, you do the rakats initially, but then you forget it. One time I entered Salaat. It had to be maybe 4:30, something like that. I did not end Salaat until maybe 1 in the morning. About 1 in the morning. I didn't even notice that I was still engaging. But I had reached a state where nothing else existed. So when I was doing the act, it just became automated. I no longer felt anything. The only thing that my mind, my heart, and my soul, I was overwhelmed with compassion and things like that for Allah, the act that I was doing, until that was it. And that's when I felt the itching between my eyebrows. That ajna center, right? Everything has purpose. Everything has meaning. We don't do things just to do it. There's a reason why you state your intent before you engage in Salaat. Scientifically, are you aware that intent by the usage of biophotons can affect matter miles away? This is a fact. You can look it up. This is a fact. It's all science. You standing on a prayer rug that is considered to be an oblong square in shape. The oblong square is associated with what? It's associated with the universe and the earth itself. Right? So when you standing upon that, then you are God standing upon the universe, and you're looking out at the universe. This is what you're going through. M.G.C. Mahayuddin, I think in his book, Children, Gems of My Eyes, he gives a story. I'll paraphrase it. So the Qutb had to go out there and he said he was going to go and meditate. So while he went out there, he said he was going to meditate. Two of the disciples wanted to go with him. One brought some type of rug or pillow. Another one brought like a rug or a mat. And then the Qutb, he had a ring on his finger. So the Qutb, he went inside of the cave. The other one, I think with the pillow, sat outside the cave in meditation. And then one with the mat sat outside near the tree. So when they came about, and they came and it was an Arab, well, at the time, the one that had the mat that was next to the tree went to the one in the pillow. And he said, from what extent do you see? He said, I see everything from the extent of my pillow. He said, I see everything from the extent of my mat. He said, let's go in the cave and ask the Qutb. He said, from which you see everything. He said, I see the universe in my ring. They went back and continued meditating. So then an Arab who I think he lost his camel or horse, he came and he hit the one that was sitting there with the mat that was next to the tree. And he said to him, have you stole my horse? Have you seen my horse? He said, no, I've been right here praying. meditating right here at this tree. He said, let's go see the one with the pillow right there outside of the cave. He said, let's go talk to him. Maybe he saw it. He said he see everything from the extent of his pillow. He went up there, they hit the dude. He said, listen, man, where did you see the horse? Have you seen my camel? It was a camel. He said, you seen my camel? He said, no. He said, I've been right here. I see everything from the extent of my pillow. They said, let's go ask the Khatib. They went up and they hit the Khatib. They said, have you seen it? The Khatib held his ring up and he saw in the reflection the camel or the horse walking in the back area of where the cave was, near the hills. Now look at this. The moral of the story is that from whatever you bring with you in prayer shall be the extent of which you see. Only God can pray to God. Ain't that something? So if God is what you're concentrating on, then the expanse of God you shall ascertain. Isan shall be seen and shall be manifested. But if you come in with perceptions, and this is deep, because that's just not limited. When you understand that every thought is a prayer, then it is our perception of what we carry with us in everything that we do. Is from the limitations and perceptions that we shall see everything. You see what I'm saying? So that's why the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that the black man brain is able to achieve whatever it conceives. But if you can't conceive it, you can't bring it into reality. So we put ourselves in chains of slavery by the limitations that we place on ourselves. But if we remove the shackles, remove our identification with form, which comes with the limitations that has been placed upon us since birth within our egos and our subconscious minds of the false personality or false identity or false self. When that original man manifested to become a colored man by the operation of Yaqub or the ego, right? Because first you are the original man, point, then creates a line, colored man. Colored man is actually the reality of the original man manifesting in a different state of being. That original man represents the original nature or essence of being, that Adam Kadmon or Isan al-Kamil, the original station of being. According to Ibn Arabi, then you are making reference to Muhammad, right? But that Muhammad represents the perfected man or the first intellect, right? This is what this is manifesting. So from the state of the original man, you become colored, which means you become mixed or other than ourself or tainted. That's what that means, spiritually wise. This is what this is dealing with. So all of this for which Master Farad Muhammad gave us is to begin our refinement process back to our original selves. And I personally believe that prayer is very important in order to ascertain that. When I say prayer, I mean true prayer, not the spooky stuff that people engage in and think they're going to enter Jannah because I did 595,000 prayers a day, but remained the same nigga. Ain't that something? Because I'm going to tell you, religion without knowledge of self, just make you a nigga with a religion. We got tons of them. There's no transformative aspect about it in any form. But when you understand that the external reality of religious activity is designed to bring you back to your natural and true self, the symbols become no more needed. Because you become what the symbol represented. That's the purpose of prayer. The Holy Quran tells us that we pray morning and evening seeking the face of Allah. The Arabic word for face is wajah. The word wajah just doesn't mean literally a face, but it also means self, inner being, personality, and continence. So what that means is, so when you see continence and all of that inside the Quran, they are translating the word wajah. So whose face are you attempting to say? What is prayer truly doing? It is purifying you and removing the rubbish of the temple out of the way so that you can see you in your truest form as God. There is no other way. Listen to me. And don't get spooky, but I'm going to tell you. The deeper that you go into yourself, let me say it a different way. Minister Farrakhan is a guide. The messenger is a guide that guides you into the light, and the light you walk therein. Master Farah Muhammad is a guide to yourself. You have to understand this. When you go deeper into the essence of your being, the only thing that exists is you, the true you. Without form, without limitations, without boundaries. But you in your divine self. As the Savior said, with your holy robes on. Because we have yet to see him in his, right? You can't see him in his unless you see yourself. You have to see yourself in all your divineness. And that's what all of this is about. And if you don't want to do Salaat, I ain't arguing with you that you have to. If you want to stand and that's it, then do it for a couple minutes or whatever it is. Okay, that's what's up. I'm not arguing with you. But getting up and just saying some prayers, that does not activate the alchemical activity necessary to refine you. That just is not going to be enough. That's spooky. To pray as a Muslim and continue in Christian ways. That's spooky. It's just reality. We are here to be God. God has already become man. Man must now become God. You don't have a choice of being God. That is your natural self. Your choice is, what type of God shall you be, and will you ever actualize such? Because we could say it forever. There's a million black men and women, I'm God. We got nothing. I'm telling you. I'm God as they get drunk. We addicted to foods, addicted to marijuana. We addicted to drugs. We addicted to emotion. We addicted to the dunya of the activity of our brains. We addicted to many things. We are slaves of mental death and power. Until we are prepared to separate and break free, this is just lip profession. That's it. We are here to actualize self. Now, can you stop your thoughts from being negative? Absolutely. Because when a negative thought arises in the mind, you should replace it with a righteous thought. Don't try to just grit it away because it's going to come back. But if you replace it with a righteous thought, that force, that is the greatest force if you but knew, right? So that righteousness, Allah, is the force for which is utilized to restrain and abolish the negative. Absolutely. This is where we at. This is the day of the gods. And there are levels to that. But when we say, man, I'm God, ain't no big deal, man. That's the only reality anyway. The type of God you are, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. Remember, at one time the moon was a part of the earth. And a scientist blew that part of the earth away because the people would not pretty much listen to him and bow down to his will. At that time, we had 13 tribes. He blows away a part of that moon, but why did he blow it away? What is at the root of his reasoning of doing such? He is governed specifically and wholly by his ego. Caused him to separate the moon from the earth and kill a tribe because of the ego. And because of that, God hid his person from amongst the people. Now look at that. So at the deportation of the moon, because of one that's overpowered by the ego in his activity, God hides his person from the people. What do we mean by that? Hide his person, his true identity. So when someone is governed by an ego, two gods ain't existing at the same time within inside of you. So if the ego is governing, then it is the God of the earth, which represents the internal aspect, brain, and form of you. So God's person becomes hidden, which is the true you or the true knowledge of you, from the conscious manifestation of you, because the moon becomes the subconscious mind. And within the subconscious mind is held all of our truths, all of our fears, all of our worries, our sadness, our lack of faith. This is the quality of the false self. So because of the ego being in control, it caused an experimentation that did an explosion, separating the identity of the original man from himself. That's a good story, I'm telling you, when you truly understand it. You see what I mean? That's a good thing I am a God. But I never say that I am a God. I am God. There is only one. It may manifest itself in multitudes of forms, but there is only one. There is only one sea of energy. Only one. It just manifests itself in a multitude of forms. Whether it's the plant, the dog, the cat, the tar, the couch you walk on, or whatever else you do. It is all made up the same substance of you. Whether it's the cat, the dog, the person over there, the Chinese, the white, the red, the plant, the fruit, all at its root and its essence is made up of the same material as you. So in some form or fashion, it is you. So I don't never say I am a God. There is no individuality. It's only God. I am God. So I don't use I am a God. Just from that particular reality, you know. And if we see things from a scientific point of view, things become very demystified. Because the messenger said that he was only trying to teach us the science in a theological way. So he's trying to teach us the science of things in a theological way because we're trapped in theology. We're too religious. So he has to begin to go within the language that we come to understand. And then when we get into that language that they understand, he has to then begin to show you the science in it, because still wasn't mature enough to hear it straight and raw. Even though it was, if our eyes are open to it. Yeah, you know, depending on who's looking at it. If our eyes are open to it, it's very raw. And I'm not knocking those who believe we shouldn't do Salaat. That's your understanding. But you have to stop saying that the messenger didn't teach Salaat when it's clear that he did. And you can't keep trying to reason it away. If you don't want to do Salaat, just don't do it. But what we learn is our perception. We put the messenger in the box of our perception of what we are prepared to accept, to the limits of what we choose to accept him to be. But our messenger taught us that he was laying the foundation of knowledge. I want to say that completely because I don't want to miss exactly his wording, right? Well, I can remember enough. So he taught us that he was laying the foundation of knowledge that was to become universal later. But how do you manifest something universal if you keep leaving it in such a strict format for which is only acceptable for what you can accept and not the totality of it, of what it represents or what he brought to us? I agree with that. Yes, sir, brother God. Absolutely. 1,000%. Quantum physics and physics should be studied 1,000%. So that's where we at with it. You got some people that can't accept the full scope of the messenger teachings. That's not where they can accept it at. And everybody grabs a little part or piece for themselves. And that's okay. If that's what they want to do. But the full scope and totality of the messenger teachings is boundless. And leads you into the study of everything. Of everything. When it's truly understood. You know what I mean? That's what I really just wanted to touch on. To be God, you know? And the proper utilization of these tools such as Salaat and Dua, meditation, yoga. They all have a purpose. But how we approach it determines what we get out of it. How we approach it will determine what we get out of it. You see what I'm saying? To be honest, I'm preparing myself to go on a serious seclusion. Right? because I know what must be done for me in the reality of the God and what I'm attempting to ascertain with my time left here on this plane, you know. Sorry for wearing my baseball cap, but you know them razors, man, with the 5-prong things on them, man, that you cut your hair with, man, it broke me out with rashes here, so it's going away, but I feel a little, I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, I'm woofing bad, man, but I can't cut my hair, man. I just can't do it until I get, you know, till it heal a little bit more. So forgive me for the baseball cap being on backwards by the whole time. But I just want y'all to know, man, I'm grateful that y'all tuned in. I hope you got something out of it, man. And my plan is to begin doing it weekly. And if people want certain subject matters to communicate about, you can ask me. And I have no problem delving into it or discussing it from the best of my understanding of things. Yes, sir. Oh, most definitely, God. But you know what, God, was funny? I could take a razor, God, raw and shave my whole face. I won't even get a bump. I take a razor and shave my head. It's a wrap. Yeah. So, I'm glad to see y'all, man. I hope to build with the gods, you know, this week coming up. I have a lot of things to talk about and delve into. Always be appreciative, man, of the elders that come before you. You don't need, and who are still in our midst, regardless if you agree with them. Or 5 salats needed. There are actually 7. And the messenger gave us a prayer to pray 7 times a day. He didn't say how to do it. So it could be in dua, or it could be within the mind, because that's ultimately within the mind, right? And then salat maybe. However, I think that the 5 daily prayers, as they are given, are designed at certain intervals within the day in order to direct and turn the mind and the heart to Allah, or to refine and to cleanse ourselves from the dunya. So I think that in a way they are absolutely, God, I shall. You know, so I think that the 5 daily prayers, the 7 daily prayers, I think they're very important. Yes, sir. I think that's yes, I will. It's on Saturdays. Yes, ma'am. So I do think that they are important, brother. Brother Bland. I do believe that they are important. I think that living amongst this devil, we are like babies with umbilical cords tied directly into his world order. And we are constantly being nourished from him, from the placenta of his womb. That prayer is a very essential necessity in order to purify ourselves of such. But I suggest again, you use the rakats in order to attune yourself, then forget the rakats. Continuously do it and let the inner voice of you dictate when you are to be done. And you will see that over time, you will forget that you're even in the act. And at some point in time, start to fill up your heart with compassion for Allah. And what you'll start to see is that the whole being is in prayer, or in concert and in tunement with the act itself. And when you do that, you're actually in tune with all of creation, because all of creation is in constant worship and praise of Allah in its own way. You know? Oh, thank you, brother God. Thank you so much. You know? So I just say, you know, that's something that we take care of, man. Another thing, man, I would say study them lessons, brothers and sisters. Study them lessons. Yes, sir. It's way more in them lessons than what it appears to be. But I think that the advice that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave, and I'm going to say his name only because the message, you know, my brother Bernard Kushmir or brother Jabril, that when he asked pertaining to the problem book, he said, just keep studying, right? So when you understand the communication of the lessons of being Allah, Master Fard Muhammad, questioning his messenger, right? At some point in time, you have to understand that Master Fard Muhammad signifies and is the supreme being, right? That supreme being or Allah represents your own higher reality or personality or the divine in you. It is Allah questioning you in the classroom of life, in the classroom of your mind, right? So you're being questioned within that class. You understand what I'm saying? So your constant studying of such and recitation of such intunes you with the divine mind itself of the messenger and the Lord. That's what these degrees are for. And they awaken you because they intune you to the divine. So don't stop looking at the degrees as, oh man, I'm going over what Master Fard Muhammad asked the messenger. No. No. The final grading is with you and Allah. You get graded in a class. So these examinations and assignments was given in class. That class you're in right now. Absolutely. This class is right now. And you being questioned. And how shall you answer those degrees? This thing is deep when you really look at it. Because this is from the Department of Supreme Wisdom. That Department of Supreme Wisdom is the Department of Superconsciousness. That's what that is. Superconsciousness. That's beyond the scope of just the conscious mind. So are you worthy to enter the class? Because you're in it now. How shall you answer those term examinations and those assignments? The question to you and I is, who is the original man? Who is the original man? You and I have identified who the original man is. We know the characteristics of the original man in his original station of being. But do you believe that you are the original man and woman? Come on. In the root of you, yes. In your natural state, yes. But no. We're definitely not. We are mixed and tampered with it. We are diluted, mixed and tampered with it in every form. That's not the state of the original man. You understand? So we're fighting to get that back. To remove that coloring from the devil. That's what we're fighting to do now. And we shall. If we are disciplined enough. And we all fall short. I know I do. Because you can't grow up in this society, especially from the urban areas, and don't have niggeritis, because it's, it's there. It's 1000% there. You know what I mean? It make you understand how men and women can go away into Himalayan mountains for 20 and 30 years and never come out. Indeed, God. A praise due to Allah in person. You know what I mean? And never come out. I'm very sure that that's why they do it. Because this world is but sport and play. And it's enticing. It ain't, you can go your whole life, never drink, never smoke, never be high. I have. But believe me, I have operated in the dunya, became a victim of the dunya, moved around in the dunya in thought and action and deed. I have. But at least I'm conscious enough to know that I need to straighten up certain realities of myself. I know that. And I've been led by the divine to study a lot of things so that I can see clearer into what we have. Because I asked Master Fard Muhammad for wisdom and understanding of that for which we have. And he gave it to me. But I'm telling you, man, I'm stages away from being a monk. I'm telling you, I fight it within myself all the time. Because I know the only reality is Allah. And that's the whole purpose and scope of the teachings. That's the scope and purpose of all their teachings. Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, the real root of Judaism, at the root of it all. Even Voodoo, at the root of it all is that one source. Oh, 1000%, God. That takes the discipline. Yes, sir. That's the discipline part to get, to be able to do it in that mind area, you know. That's why one of the things they do is they go in darkness. If you notice, the prophet's always going in darkness. Prophet Muhammad went into a cave where the sunlight didn't shine and all of that stuff. And that's when he was taken to the seven heavens. What you thought he was in there doing? He was initiated. He went through the stages of development in there by the practices that he learned from the schools. 1000%. That's how he got it. There's nothing spooky. There's nothing spooky. Trust me. You know what begin to happen when you're inside of darkness? You produce melatonin. Melatonin is that regulation, right? Over time, the melatonin wind up building up, and then eventually you get that God particle, DMT. And that's when certain things occur. It's real good with inside of that darkness that you have something to concentrate on. You dig what I'm saying? Well, I would say this. Them ancient ones is me in form and in my person. But I got ways to go as far as my discipline and my development in different areas within inside of my psyche and my activities. I need discipline on all levels. You know what I mean? I might be disciplined with not partying in clubs. I never did. Drinking, smoking, and all that, never did. That was never my interest. You know, my interest has always been studying and discipline. You know, I came into the teachings when I was only 12 years old. I'm now 51. I've never been Sunni, Salafi, Orthodox, or anything else. But I've studied all of that stuff. Because the messenger teachings are universal to those that are studied on a universal level. You can see them in everything, and you can apply them in everything. Well, I'm glad that I spoke to y'all today, man. I appreciate y'all took time out your life, man, to build with the God today. I saw the different requests as far as what to build on next, and I shall. But I just want to say thank you, and I give assalamu alaikum to my Muslim brothers and sisters. Salamullah to the angels. Peace God to the five. Y'all have a beautiful, beautiful day. That'll work, brother. Oh, 1000%, brother. I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate all of y'all, God. I appreciate you all. And I hope to see y'all gods next week, if it be Allah's will. Peace.